This is lesson 5.5, percents, chapter 5. A percent is a part to a whole ratio where the whole is always 100. Remember, you always write something as 5% or 23%, so on and so forth, and you already have done this where you write the 5% as 5 over 100. So that's why we are saying that 5 over 100 is a ratio, or 5% is a ratio where the denominator or the whole is always going to be 100. So percent is nothing but a fraction with a denominator of 100. Always, always, always. All right, let's go ahead and write some percents as fractions. Now, this is the easy part where you have done before. 36%. Again, remember, this symbol stands for a percent, and it means that out of 100. That's what it means. Out of 100. Percent. That's what it means. Okay. All right. So 36%, again, that's a percent sign, so that means it's 36 out of 100. They have asked me to write it in the simplest form, so think of the greatest common factor. In this case, it ends up to be 4. So divide by 4, I end up with a 9 over 25. That's my simplest form. Let's go here. This is nothing but 5 over 100. Again, percent means 100. So if you simplify this, greatest common factor is 5, divide, and then you get a 1 out of 20. Now, the number 3, if you look, is 168%. Now, this is, or I should say, there are a couple of ways to do this. So let me go ahead and show you both. One is where you think 168, again, this part doesn't change, is out of 100. Now, I could do it two ways. 100 goes into 168 once. I have a remainder of 68 hundredths. I can rewrite it that way. Now, for this though, I can next go ahead and simplify it as 1 and 17 over 25, because remember, 4 is my greatest common factor. Instead of doing this, you could also go ahead and reduce the fraction right here, and then you end up getting 4 is the greatest common factor again for this. So 4 times 4, 4 times 2 over 25, and then you end up anyway with 117 out of 25. So it doesn't matter how you do it, you are going to end up with the same answer. Let's go to the last example. This is a little bit tricky. Again, if you see, percent means 25, but look, I have a decimal here. So this means that it's 0.25 out of 100, and they want me to simplify it. So in order for me to simplify, I have to first make this decimal into a whole number. So I'm going to do that by moving my decimal twice, makes it a whole number, or multiplying, in this case multiplying by 100, but that makes it a whole number. Remember our equivalent fractions or equivalent ratios. The rule is if I move the numerator twice over, then since the decimal is here in the denominator, I have to move it over twice. That gives me 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in the denominator, because now I have to hold these empty spaces with zeros. Go ahead and reduce, and you will end up with 1 out of 400. That is my final answer. Okay. Next part is where I'm going to write the fractions as percents. We just wrote percents as fractions. Now we are sort of going to walk back and then write the fractions as percents. That's what we are going to do. Let's go ahead and do it. The first thing to see is to see if the denominator, let me go ahead and fill this in, writing fractions as percents, and remember that we are writing equivalent fractions with a denominator of 100. That's basically what we are trying to do. All right, this is the easy part. When I have 5 or 2, I have, when I have a 2 or a 5 or 10 or 20 or 25, 50, that means they are they have 100 as their multiple, so it's easier for me to make the denominator of 100. So 25 times 4, so times 4, that gives me 28 over 100, which is a fraction, and I can write that as 28%. The next one, for me to get a denominator of 100, because that's how I write my percent with a denominator, times 20 times 20, so I get 20 over 100, which is 20%. And the last one, I can do it a couple different ways, and I like to do it by leaving the whole number but making my denominator equivalent to a 100 out of the fraction, just the fraction piece. So times 5 gives me 60, so that's a 2 and 60 hundredths. Now I'm going to go ahead and make it into 100 times 2, 200 plus 60, 260 over 100. Or you can also do the same problem as, I'm going to show you the other way right here. You could do 2 and 12/20ths. Go ahead and make it into an improper fraction. That gives you 52 out of 20. And then multiply by 5, multiply by 5. You will end up with 260 over 100 again. Okay? All right. Now coming to the a little bit, it's not hard, but I should say it's a little bit tricky part of this lesson. These fractions, in this case, do not have a nice neat little denominator that gives you, or that has a multiple of 100 in it, like 8 or 7 or 6 or whatever the number. In this case, it is a 8. In this case, we do a long division, and then we multiply, so do long division, and then multiply the answer with 100 to get the percent. That's all we are doing. Okay, let's do the long division. Again, becomes very important to know how to do long divisions, because you will not be given a calculator for this. Remember our how to write these. So your numerator is always inside the, and then your denominator is right here. So that's how you can remember it. Okay, let's do this. So you're dividing 3 with 8, and as soon as I look at this, I know that 3 is a smaller number than 8, so I know that I have to get some zeros, and that the answer is going to be a decimal. So I'm just going to go ahead and place them right now. So again, remember the division, decimal division, so carry your decimal up. That's a 0. 8, now ignore that. 8 goes into 30. 8 times 3, 24. Subtract, bring that's a 6, bring the 0 down. 8 times 7, 56. Subtract 4, bring the 0 down. 8 times 5. So my answer is 0.375. And remember, this is a decimal, and in order for me to make it into a percent, I have to multiply it by 100, which is the same as moving the decimal twice, because 100 has 2 zeros. So moving the decimal twice to the right, and I end up with my answer as 37.5%. Okay, right, let's try one last. Again, I have 33, which is divided by 40. I know it doesn't, so I'm just going to add my zeros. Now you can add as many zeros as you can, and if it's less, you can just continue adding more. Okay, decimal goes right up. That's a 0. 4 goes into 338 times 320. Subtract 10, bring the 0 down. Twice, 80. Subtract 20, bring the 0 down. And 5. So in this case, I end up with a decimal of 0.825. Again, either move it twice or multiply by 100. It's the same, and with an answer of 82.5%. 82.5%. Okay. Now let's come to the last piece, which is a story problem. It says you ate 4/5 loaf of a bread. What percent of a bread did you eat? I'm going to rewrite my fraction. As soon as I look at it and I know that I have to convert it into a percent, I know that I have to divide this. You could go ahead divide 4 with 5, or in this case I see that 5 has a multiple of 100, so this is easier for me. 5 times 20 times 20, equivalent fraction, so 80, that gives me 80%. So again, remember, we always give the answer to a story problem as a complete statement, so you have to say you ate 80% of the loaf of bread. All right, go ahead and finish the rest of the problems, and I will see you next class.